All right. It's great to be here, and it's with great privilege that I have my amazing guest, Pradita Astarina from Indonesia. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the host of GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. We just love artificial intelligence and quantum computing. Our idea is to bring companies to Silicon Valley, using it as support to the rest of the world. So it's with great honor, Pradita, that to have you here. And I may be joined by another guest, Risman, who's running a little bit late, but he should join us. So, Pradita, tell me a little bit about, it's interesting, a little bit about yourself. I was looking at it. I got to tell you, I've never seen anybody that has a master's of philosophy degree for University of Cambridge in innovation. I always thought it was master of science, et cetera, but it's, two master's degree, an amazing background, 11 years worth of experience. So tell me a little bit about it. What's been the journey like, from getting started at Cambridge to where you are
Hello?
today, years later?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello, Gary?
Yes, we hear you.
Hello?
Pradita? Yes. We hear you. It's okay.
Hello?
Yes, Pradita. Can you hear us?
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sure. A bit about myself. So I'm started finance professionals with like more than 11 years experience in private equity and venture capital. During my time in Canada, I did a dual degree and MBA, a Master of Philosophy in Innovation Strategy and Organization. Much more about like exploring or like how to innovate the sectors, for example, like outdated sectors with all the technology that coming in. So it's pretty much how to just reform all the outdated industry towards much more modern and much more dynamic. And of course, with regard to that kind to the increase in ROI, right, the return of investment of the shareholders. So that kind of thing I learned in Cambridge, and also I did some writing in venture capital and private. So it's that between like mix of research and much more practical, for example, like academics globally.
Got it. Can you hear me, Pradita?
I didn't catch your last word.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
I could
cool.
hear you right now.
So tell me a little bit, what kind of investments are you doing today?
Right. Right now, I'm working for CFI. CFI is a multi-asset. It's like a multi-asset management firm that have venture capital. They also have like asset management firm, and also we have like this kind of luxurious motorsport. It's like Italy brand like Ducati, also under the firm, and several other subsidiaries. Actually, this multi-asset investment firm also related with PT Indica. Indica Energy is one of the leading public infrastructure and energy in Indonesia. And all the shareholders of Indica, they also related to the CFI thing. And by saying so, I'm also responsible for all investment, ranging from private equity, project financing, and venture capital financing. So it's pretty much very sector agnostic. It really depends on the deal flow. For example, for like venture capital and private equity deal, like the structure or the financial structure of the transaction really depend on each deal. And we can create special purpose vehicle, for example, for any large investment that will come to Indonesia. So it's
Interesting.
pretty much very sector agnostic. Yeah.
So tell us about what's going on in Indonesia today, Pradita. What kind of deals
Yeah.
do you see?
So yeah, right now I'm seeing so many so many, diverse deal from like airport innovation in airport, for example, blockchain, even blockchain related to the e-stamp,
Hmm.
blockchain related to the cryptocurrency. We would like to invest in that kind of sector. And for like much more conventional one, we also involved in fintech, the financial technology. We disburse this kind of loan through a platform for these micro, small, medium enterprises in Indonesia. So with very large population of Indonesia, it's almost like 260 million population right now, people, and then it means like very huge dividend growth, right? I mean, by having like this kind of very huge population, the total addressable market for each investment will be really huge. Even you can tap like, for example, 10% times 260 million, it will be very huge as well. And then lots of foreigners, especially investors from the US or in Europe, they would like to tap into that kind of opportunity. So yeah, I think my role here is a bit much more like a bridge, a license. If you would like to know Indonesia better, or you would like to invest in Indonesia, or having partnership with the Indonesian market, it will be my role to just bridge all those interests to come in.
No, that's great. So you'll be the great bridge for investments coming in. What about the kind of companies coming out of Indonesia? What do you see in terms of
Mm.
companies that want to go global? What are the characteristics?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much a globetrotter by myself, right? I spent like few years in the UK, studying and also working there in private equity fund, and also in several, project consultancy with Cambridge, what University of Cambridge.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of mindset, unfortunately, like only like perhaps like less than 10% of Indonesian that could enjoy such a privilege, to have that kind of global exposure. So there is a, if I mention like some characteristic like complacency, right? Because like the market is so big here, some of the
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, they still have a mindset that, okay, it's I think it's they think that only tapping into Indonesian market will pay a lot of in their growth, company
Mhm.
growth. So they would like to be the winner in the local market first before going global.
Mhm.
So I think for the company to go global, it really needs special talent. What I mean here is like talent with much more bigger ambition, a bigger drive in order to succeed in the market. And especially in terms of the product, I think the product should be very general and can be utilized in other countries as well, by
Mhm.
having not much differentiation. So like the cost for having that product will stay almost the same, or also increase, but it's a bit like slight increase in cost of production.
Mhm.
I think that's two. From the mindset itself, they are divided into two, right? And then from the product itself, the product should be general enough to be utilized software that could be is
We
that
love.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes people, they don't want to go global because they don't have connection. What I mean by connection is that they would be studio,
We
for
lost you
example.
for we lost you for a minute, Pradita.
Yeah,
Sorry about that. You froze.
sure. Yeah, I think the third point is just like having a local trusted partner in the US. So
Yeah. So what Pradita's saying is having a local trusted partner is really important. No, we agree with you 100%, Pradita. Can you hear us? Ah, it looks like Pradita's frozen. So, we look at the Indonesian, we actually looking about going global no matter where you are, as having an opportunity to really take your product out to a larger market. Go ahead, Pradita. Sorry we lost you for a second.
Yeah. Sorry for the internet connection. Yeah, I mean, what I mentioned previously, that's, for example, GSD studio rules, right? You guys try to be the founder's partner to go abroad and to go global. The first breaking barrier that we have to break in this case, especially for the Indonesian market, it is the mindset itself, because sometimes they really, very few people that would like to trust, people that quite, they are very far from here. And then, for example, if you don't have any opportunity to visit the market, or doing this kind of event, or making the brand much more well known
Mhm.
here, sometimes that trust should be built step by step, not in, only one interaction, and then they will just believe. And then, like, saying is believing. And I do believe that if we can just take, for example, some talented founders into your accelerator, or doing the pilot projects here, it will be a major milestone in order to make people really believe what they already done.
It's interesting because, just not GSD, but with this digital transformation, we're seeing companies. We have companies from Africa, from
Mm.
Rwanda, from Nigeria, from South Africa. I mean, the world's changed in the last year since we've gone down through this pandemic. And it's incredible the amount of companies that have come out. It's like diamonds that were undiscovered. And it's a beauty to be able to find those diamonds. So in Jakarta, wherever those diamonds are, and to have the key contacts like yourself to be able to bring those out. It's not easy. Not all founders are made to go global. Not
Yeah,
everybody's there. Not everybody wants to create a unicorn, but the
yeah,
mindset that has to be had is really important to be able to think positive. Some I worked in Russia a long time, and one of the things is I hope, maybe, I'm not sure, but you have to really believe in yourself if you want to do
yeah,
it. The soft side of creating a unicorn.
yeah, yeah. I
So
mean, I mean, I don't think that only like creating the unicorns, right? But the mindset itself, that you aim to be big, right? You aim to just go beyond the reach, right? I mean, like, beyond breaking the barriers, and then go beyond, and that kind of ambition. Not everyone having that kind of ambition. So I think in order to join chain, there should be like people and the right mindset. Because, like, as you already said before, right, it's not like all people would like to go global, or not all people would like to be globally acknowledged, right? I think joining GS partners, you guys have lots of global networks. I would like to, for example, only like having partners in Singapore, even in Southeast Asia. If we really utilize that kind of partnership, I think it will be lucrative for all parties involved. So yeah, looking forward to it.
yeah, Pradita, well, it's got to be a win-win no matter where we are, right? We're all
Yeah,
part of this planet, trying to make a little dent in the universe, to live a good life, to be
yeah,
happy with our family, to be safe. I mean, so we all work together and to bring some goodness around. And we do that by creating jobs, no matter where we are. Create jobs, people make more money, they're happy, they get to spend time with their families. That's what it's all about. And, one thing about this pandemic, it's given us a chance to look inside ourselves and to say, who are we really and what do we really want with our lives?
yeah, yeah,
And, you know, the difference between 1918 is today is we have StreamYard, we have Zoom, we can get information out, and we can get information from incredible companies that are out there and find those companies in Jakarta that are in, we love artificial intelligence because we believe AI is a new electricity. We love
yeah,
quantum computers because it's going to change everything. And no matter what vertical market it's in. So, the companies that are in Jakarta, all over Indonesia, talk to Pradita. There's incredible opportunities. If she's got money, she invests. And, you're a living proof, Pradita, that you can make a dent in the universe doing what you've done, going over and getting your master's degrees, being involved in investments for 11 years, and really putting a dent in the universe is important, and forward thinking too. I know I met you, I don't even know how long ago, 6 months, 8 months, quite some
I think
time now.
last year, yeah, last year we met in the judging panel of the unicorn, the startup network, the unicorn battle. So yeah, after I think after my first experience being the judge, and then I keep becoming the judge for other panel as well for
You,
the yeah for the startup network. Yeah, yeah,
well,
it's
that's part of it. Part of it is these beautiful platform forms, the
yeah
startup network, the VCTV, where the information could be given. I mean, part of the thing before a year ago, year and a half ago, we didn't have these kind of networks in broadcasting, or we didn't use them, right, to get the word out. Now the situation is we can touch people all over the world and get
yeah
information
correct.
out to them, talk to them about opportunities, bring their startups to the very forefront. And I remember I was in Russia, and
Mm,
lived in Russia almost 14 years, and we started one of the first accelerator, Skolkovo Startup Academy. And I remember when people said, "Oh, nobody's going to want to do this. It's a Silicon Valley based thing." And I remember my first entrepreneurs club with my friend Lawrence Wright. We had about 5 people. That thing grew to over 300. Then I remember the biggest event we had. We brought Guy Kawasaki to the school. I was on
mm,
stage with him. We had over 2,000 people attend. So we went from
yeah
then, and Russians are incredibly sharp in terms of AI and technology, and it was
yeah
incredible to see the transformation and a very positive attitude and bringing that goodness and believing that you can get it done. I mean, you're living proof. Look at it, 2 master's degrees, all the things you've done in investment, running groups and really pushing it forward. It's incredible. And having like-minded people like you as part of a network is, I feel humbled having
yeah
people like you. So
yeah
it's great.
likewise. I mean when I moved back from the UK to Indonesia, I always looking forward to establish this kind of global connection that could enable us to be much more smarter, much more sharp, and they're sharper, and then much more innovative in a way, right? Because like for example, sometimes we cannot and we do not need to reinvent the wheel, right? I mean, what happened in Europe or in Russia or in the US for AI and machine learning or like deep tech innovation, I think you guys already invented them like for how long, like 20 years or 10 years. And but that kind of innovation could be considered as a new innovation with regard to the emerging market. So I don't think that we need to just reinvent the wheel. Of course, we need customization because like not it's not as easy as like only like replicating same products to the emerging market. But the core is there, and then we can just learn from what happened to China 10 or 20 years ago, right? That's Indonesia right now. So I mean,
Well, I mean, this is, I think Indonesia is a great
right?
place to be. I think you've got so many smart people. Remember, this is really the democratization of opportunity.
Yeah,
Intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And you are, it's incredible. What we want to do is we need to understand that in order to make this world a better place,
yeah,
so take places like Indonesia all over and basically to take and have people realize their potential and having people like yourself that can spread the word out that ourselves, I'm a country boy from Pennsylvania. I grew up on the side of a mountain, Pradita, 500-person village, right? And if
yeah,
somebody like me can have somebody as incredible as you on a show, I mean, we made a dent in the universe. Now the thing is, let's take those companies from Indonesia and let's really bring them out to the world so the world can see all the beauty and splendor and incredible talent that's there. How is,
yeah.
from your standpoint, what's the tech scene like in Indonesia today? And how has it changed over the last, let's say, 3 years?
Yeah, the tech scene in Indonesia is really really emerging right now. For example, we have like lots of unicorns from e-commerce sectors. There are new unicorns born in Indonesia. Again, it's just because like the total addressable market is huge, and then when you can tap into this economies of scale and economies of scope, and then the product will just be the market leaders, right? But the problem is that for most of the startups, especially in the unicorn stage, they just
Mhm.
care about the top line. not the bottom line, is pretty much different when I was doing, for example, the conventional private equity firm, for example, that really value the cash flow and all these bottom line things, rather than only like having fantastic growth in 5 years, for example, and then they did lots of marketing costs to cover all of the expense, and then
Oh,
they just
I've
care
seen
about
that before, Pradita. It's like a
they
shell game. We call it the shell game in the U.S., right? We have
yeah,
three
exactly.
shells and you're moving around. I
Yeah, yeah,
understand that.
yeah, yeah, and all those things, right? All those things. If
Mhm.
we back to basic and then we value a company based on the sustainability. What I mean by sustainability, yeah, you can burn some money, but not like burn all the money for such a long time, right? And then at one
Mhm.
point you just realize that the runway is very limited, and you every 3 months you need to just fundraise in order to survive. I don't think that's going to be like the sustainable solution for all the emerging startups here. And the founders itself, they need to really care about how to sustain the company. For example, you can just they pass through the torch from the first generation to second generation to third generation. So I mean that kind of old wisdom. I think when I mentor these startups,
Mhm.
especially like for the Series B round, or they would like, or they aim to become an unicorn, I always mention about the sustainable growth rather than growth at all costs, because I do believe that you don't want to become, you don't want to become only like a hype for only 6 months or 1 year, and after that, you will be just disappear from this competitive landscape for the next 10 years from now.
Yeah,
And
well,
again,
and those are basic business
another
principles, right? You don't want to spend too much on advertising. You want to make sure that you got enough money coming in to be able to sustain the company. And I mean, these are principles we learned from our grandparents. This is not new, but it's funny that we talk about it today because on one side you got these hyper growth companies, on the other side you got these companies that are really today, anyhow, seems like more focused on sustainability. Are you there, Pradita?
your last sentence.
Yeah, I said now we see companies that are really focused on the bottom line compared to what it was because the investors are really focused on it too, right? They don't want them to spend all the money they have and find out that they don't have any more runway left. Are you there? It seems like the internet connection's a little wavy again, Pradita. Can you hear me? It's going in and out. So what I'd like to say until Pradita comes back on is that there is a great opportunity, no matter where you are, to be able to go global. So look inside the company, and what Pradita's saying is right on target, which is what you need to do is you need to focus on the bottom line. It's not all about advertising and getting your presence. It's about really growing your company and making sure that your company is profitable. We said Risman just joined us. So hold on.
Back home.
Risman, how are you?
Good.
So it's great to
Finally.
have you. Well, super. So listen, so Pradita and I've had some really good conversations about Indonesia, but I wanted to just introduce yourself. You're the director at Samsung's R&D Institute in Indonesia, and I got a question for you. How in the world do you go from theoretical physics to Samsung? I mean, it's just really interesting for me. What's that transition like?
So 6 years ago, when Samsung offered me the job to lead the R&D center, I said, it's insane. It's impossible. We built the global R&D center in the country like Indonesia. We don't have the supply. But my VP now is convincing me, maybe you can prove that from the bottom of pyramid, you can prove that we can do the things that other people do. So I lived with that dream for 6 years, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
I said, uh, we can publish in whatever paper they publish, like journal or NIPS or ICLR. If you read papers on AI, there is many things is fancy now. After the next 2 months, you found it's not right, it's insane, right? So I think we just need to be updated on the latest mindset they have on the AI, on the latest techniques they have. That unfortunately, in a country like Indonesia, we are not updated well. In country like US, you have professor, big names like Fefe Lee from Stanford, or maybe Michael Jordan from Berkeley, or maybe Benjio for Montreal, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Indonesia is very far, and in other countries the same. They are not updated on the story, but it doesn't mean they are not able to follow the story if they know the latest story.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I mean, Rizman, that's one of the things. I don't know about you, but in the last year, right, with things like, doing these podcasts, having incredible people that have deep expertise, it really helps because it gives us a chance, as Pradita and I were talking about, level the playing field. It's a lot better than it was, at least from my perspective, right? And actually, right now, I'm in Palm Beach in Florida at my house. I'm not in the valley because of COVID. But I got to tell you, I have just as much access today as I do in the valley because here we are. We're online with this digital transformation. So
Between the valley and the bottom of pyramid, like country like Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, in Southeast Asia, it's not about the core competence on the things that, let's say, mathematics, statistic, but we have missed many stories regarding this AI. At the end, AI is still gradient descent.
mhm.
We are still suffer about Bayesian algorithm, Monte Carlo algorithm. We are not there yet. We are still talking about gradient descent ascent, all about first order optimization, not even second order optimization, not even.
Well,
Right?
and the audience has to realize you're getting your PhD in artificial and deep learning, right?
Oh
So,
yeah. No, gradient descent for physicists is very easy
mhm,
things. It's
mhm.
very easy things. Gradient descent is about you are going down from from the mountain, go to the downside, and then you find the direction with the gradient descent. Nothing fancy for physicists like me.
So what are you doing like at Samsung? Like right now, what kind of things? What's your day look like in terms of, from R&D perspective? What do you do? Do you meet
So
with companies? Are
yeah.
you just in pure research? What are you doing every day?
So my mandate is to create overseas R&D center in Indonesia, which is I was absolutely don't believe at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
because we have to compete with mature country, right? But we found out all of these things, software is quite changes of the last 10 years. Everything you imagine you can build, there is another open source you can be inspired for and you can improve. It's not
Mm-hmm.
something we built from scratch right now.
Mm-hmm.
Even for example, like Zoom application, whatever you mentioned now in US, is we can learn from open source
Mm-hmm.
as long as you have the good foundation in algorithm, in understanding other people codes, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is not no blocker, no blocker. But of course, business side is more complicated because we are from the country that nobody believe that you can do things that other people can do. But in terms of technical perspective, I don't see any gap. I don't see. Give me an engineer fresh graduate in Indonesia in 3 months. We can build them as AI engineers like in Silicon Valley in 3 months.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, just FYI, I went to Russia the first time in 1992, and I started the first accelerator in Russia. and also the #1 private corporate exceller was one that I had originally GVA launched Gurus. I can tell you directly, I heard the same things back in 2000 about the same thing in Russia. I also was on the original management team of Click Software, an Israeli company that came over to the US. I heard the same thing. Oh, Israeli company's not going to do it. Russians don't have the expertise. But guess what? People change. And, part of being, I'm Greek American, lived in Russia almost 14 years. So I have a very broad background. And what I say, and I lived in the UK, etc. But there's so many opportunities because there's a lot of smart people, and people just like yourself and Pradita are the ones that are going to be the game changers of moving those people over. And the more jobs you can create, the more opportunities, the more research is done. And I know from my own perspective, when we did Click Software, they said, oh, this Israeli company is not going to really do anything. The market's changed. There was a crash in 2000, etc. But the company was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion years later, right? So if you got, part of doing this journey, and I've worked with thousands of startups, just like both of you, but if you have a positive mindset and you can believe you can do it, believe me, when I was in Russia and I didn't speak Russian at the time, but literally to start this, where people said it couldn't be done, but it started to create a movement. And that's what I see you guys is doing, to be able to create an incredible movement in Indonesia. What we do is we use Silicon Valley as a port because it's a great place to raise money, right?
When you mention about Russia, it's very resonant for me because I have many friends in Russia. We worked together for a long time in Samsung. So the level of mathematics in Russia is much more in other countries because of the curriculum, because of the legacy on mathematics. But it doesn't mean country like Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand cannot catching up. I don't because 20 years ago when I did my master degree in theoretical physics, if I have to find paper in physical journal of physics A, B, C, D, I have to go to UK embassy. I send them the paper I want to get. This is about 1993 to 1998.
Mm-hmm.
And they will fax to library in UK, and then I will get the paper. The next week, I have to pay $1 per page.
Mm-hmm.
But now with Archive, okay, with the all open access of papers, whatever you can read in Russia, whatever you can read in Valley, whatever you can read in Papua, in Indonesia, the same, as long as you have internet connection.
No, I agree. And that's it, right? That's what we talk about, leveling the playing field. And it's
right.
But Risman, the other thing is people don't take advantage of it. I talk to people. I have 3 African companies, right? Today. People don't understand it, just exactly what you're saying, that the playing field's being leveled. And it's got to be the entrepreneurs like yourself. You went over to the embassy, you paid $1 a page because you knew you wanted to make a dent, you were going to make a difference.
Exactly.
They got to want it. Look at Pradita, went to Cambridge. You got to make it one. I'm a country boy. I grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania, right? And people they didn't leave. And you got to make it one a dent. And I'm just a poor country boy. But people like
6 years ago, I was in Microsoft, and I'm very amazed with blogs of, let's say, Scott from Microsoft guy who write the very good blogs. I amazed because I don't understand some keywords they mention about. But once you are very deep in algorithm, we are talking the same language.
Mm-hmm.
You just make some nice story of the same thing we are understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any blocker of that. The real problem in Southeast Asia country, especially in like Indonesia, is they don't have confidence. I can do the things like people do in Silicon Valley. I can do, for example, can we make application like Zoom in Indonesia? It's the same WebRTC technology that everybody are using.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Per Wimmer was on my show a few weeks ago. Per,
the thing is, I have more use case than people in US.
Mm-hmm.
I have use case that you don't see, where my internet connection is not as good as you are. I know that latency is very bad in Zoom when I have a very bad internet connection. They don't get it. I
No,
really
and if you're in Pennsylvania, where we go in the summertime near a farm, the the internet sucks there too. I got to tell you. And
yeah,
by the way, in Silicon Valley, because so many people are online right now, the internet can suck there, right?
yeah,
In fact, I just had to upgrade mine here in Palm Beach. So, but these are challenges. It's not about the challenge. I'll never forget this. Muhammad Ali said one time, and several other fighters have said the same thing. But it's not the person that gets knocked down; it's the person that gets back up, right? And so, getting back up and doing the kind of things you're doing, I see it. I never thought about Africa the way I do today. I mean, I thought about Kenya and the beautiful animals and all kinds of beautiful things. But I've seen some of the most incredible startups now coming out of there that are extremely sophisticated in areas like artificial intelligence and quantum computing.
yeah.
And we need to go down through. It's about how can we nurture the system in Indonesia to make a dent in the universe. And my thing for my time, I mean, I saw in Russia, you're right about the scientists, but let me tell you, there's a difference between being a scientist and being an entrepreneur. Because I don't know, you've dealt with some of the scientists, right? And they're like, I'll never forget. This is a real story. The scientist said to me, and I've had this in not just in Russia, but many different countries. My product, this is a $40 billion market, and my product is the best market. So I'm going to own 90% of it. So my company is now worth $36 billion. I was trying to raise $10 million of funding for it. And I said, dude, you have no sales. You don't even have a proof of concept. How in the world can you say your company's worth $36 billion? And get this, he said. So I said, put together a cap table. He had no money in there for his employees, right? Because he didn't know. He didn't know no employment stock options, right? Which are critically important if you want to get people interested in taking value in the company. And the other thing is, it's just everything was skewed to him. And I said, nobody's going to invest in this company for like a fraction of a percent for putting in $10 million. Let's think realistic. But I got to tell you, Risman, the thing is, once you start to educate people, they come around. They start to come around. They understand. And so by doing exactly what we're doing today is a step. It's a baby step forward. I have a lot of respect. You guys are amazing. And I love it. Whatever we can do to be able to help, we're willing to help, because this is the dawn of a new era. You know that AI, machine learning, deep learning, quantum, it's going to entirely change our lives over the next 15, 20 years. We need to position Indonesia, Southeast Asia, in the world to make it a better place. How do we have 8.1 billion people on the planet today. In another 100 years, it's estimated.
I've been in the technology business for 20 years more. I never see a marathon like AI where we are in the same starting point.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't see the AI algorithm now is mature enough. It's just gradient descent, nothing more.
Well, the thing is, I know where with Eva, we position of remote workforce management, and my partner David Yang is from MIT in Russia, one of the top schools in AI, right? And the thing is, I know the kind of the challenges that we faced, but I also know the kind of abilities we've been able to bring to these companies to be able to help them manage their workforce using unsupervised and semi-supervised AI. So we're not at the final game, but we're making progress with it. The key is we want to be in the game. If you want to run away,
we are in the marathon.
We're in a marathon.
Very far from the starting point.
But we got to work out. Whenever you're going to win a marathon, you got to work out.
I agree with that. We have to work out like crazy, like what they are doing there. And we are ready now. We have no option. We are not going. There is no other point below our point now, our stage now.
So what do you think in terms of?
Have to go up. No matter
Exactly.
what.
So what do we do in Indonesia to make it go up more? Pradita, what do you think?
Yeah, I think
This is
you
a
know
very interesting thing.
to
I
build.
discussed with Anita many times. There is many venture capital incubators. All of this is just storytelling.
Hmm.
It's not something real. Like, do you think like the digital rising in Indonesia is something real? I just see it's extension of SoftBank business or Alibaba business or someone else business. Nothing
What do you
more.
think, Pradita?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's still still early
Very
enough,
early.
right? That Indonesia will be the rising star for this kind of machine learning, or or this AI and deep technology. And system, I don't think it's an
It's
easy
not technology movement.
Yeah,
Not
no,
we have
what
doing right
you're right.
now.
financial movement, yes.
Yeah,
Hello.
go ahead, Pradita. Sorry, we lost you for a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Go
lost
ahead.
you for
Yeah,
a minute.
yeah, it's the internet connection. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the ecosystem need to be nurtured, and then we are pretty sure that all this kind of all the venture capital investment, we also need like this kind of the knowledge transfer. For example, it doesn't really, the money itself, we need to go beyond the money, for example. And then I don't think like, all these investors, they just, pouring the money without any, technical or like knowledge transfer. It will be nonsense. And I do think like, building like this kind of education or schooling for AI, or like schooling for machine learning or whatever, foundations, or a kind of accelerator that could just teaching the AI or machine learning in much more easier to to absorb way. So everyone, even like the I think even the early adapters of the AI will understand. So it's pretty much we need to just simplify all the equations and simplify all the language. So everyone could have the same understanding, and then realize how big the potential is.
Absolutely. Who pays for that? Who would pay for that? Would it be a Samsung? Would it be the government? Who would pay for that?
Samsung
I'm
will
just,
pay.
I think it's a great idea.
So many digital company, they call it themselves digital. They claim themselves as a tech company. But
Mhm.
if you find out how much contribution they make in technology, is not at big, right? So
Right.
what they do is just using the current technology to disrupt the current business. So it's not technology disruption. It's nothing more. So, but if you see in Indonesia currently, the number of STEAM students, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, if you can scan the whole country in Southeast Asia with our fourth youth population, number one youth population, fourth most populous country, Indonesia is the most that will produce the next generation engineers in Asia. Nothing more. The problem is curriculum, faculty, right? But if someone from mature country who already see how it works come here,
Hmm.
give something that they never see before that they can do, Gary, is something is like in Russia, right? People in Russia don't know that their mathematics skill is very expensive in the United States. Most of
Hmm.
the designer, architect of Windows coming from Hungary, Russia, all of these countries
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree.
because of their mathematic level. In Indonesia, if we can bring the good algorithm skill, which is they're hungry for.
Hmm.
If we can show how they can innovate, they can make business globally, only one case, it will inspire million of youths.
I'm ready. Risman, come on. I'm ready. That's why we're here. That's why GST exists. That I'm serious about it.
Yeah.
Let's go down through. Let's identify one of the companies. Let's find one of them and let's nurture and take it up and make a
So
big move. There's got to be one company in Indonesia that I'm
just
sure.
one, just one. We don't need more. We just have to get one.
Okay,
And then
so let's
also,
call out
Asian company,
because they're
go
listening
global.
to us today. Contact Pradita, contact Risman, contact myself. We're looking for that one company. So write to us, and with that, I got to jump off because I got to jump on. I have a speaking engagement right after this. I got to
Thank you
jump
for your
off.
time.
Yeah,
Anyway,
thanks for Risman. We were gonna, was gonna end a little bit earlier, but I'm sure glad you joined us today. And
yeah, me
Pradita. So
Yeah.
closing thoughts, Pradita. What are your closing thoughts?
Yeah, my closing thoughts is that I do believe that the bridge between this developed market and developing market should be built. And then we are there to be the bridge. And, this knowledge transfer, all this, despite all the fundings, on top of the funding,